Welcome back once again to another edition of Viper Bites Thursday Night Football Preview, where we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading to the city of brotherly love, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Currently, the 4-1 Buccaneers are 7-point favorites with the over-under sitting at about 52 points with the 2-3 Eagles. Now, before we get into the tail of the tape, so to speak, let's get into some injuries because there's some very key injuries that we need to be paying attention to heading into this match. First off, for the Buccaneers, Tom Brady, he has a thumb injury. He's been limited. Obviously, it's Wednesday. It's rest day all across the National Football League. You know he's going to play. He's got that questionable tag with that thumb. Now, Chris Godwin, on the other hand, has a knee and ankle kind of concerns right now. He is questionable. Expect him to go. Antoine Winfield, concussion, questionable as well, the safety there for the Buccaneers. And then out already is Rob Gronkowski with that rib injury, with those internal injuries that they've been talking about. And here's another big one on this defense. Out. Levante David with that ankle injury. Those are two very key injuries that for the Buccaneers that it's going to be difficult for them to make up for. Now, for the Eagles, things are starting to get a little bit better. You know, Landon Dickerson, he's coming around. Jordan Mailata, looks like he's back at practice here. Derek Barnett, he's questionable. He's got an ankle injury. Dallas Goddard has COVID. He is out for this game. And Lane Johnson, personal, he's questionable for this as well. Now, when we go to Dallas Goddard and Rob Gronkowski, I can't help but feel that if this game was a Sunday night game, that there's a good chance that both these guys would be in the lineup. However, coming from a Sunday to a Thursday, the time difference there playing into a factor. Unfortunately, neither one of them will be available for this game. Now, to break it all down, we're going to go position by position like we do each and every week. We're going to start with the quarterback position for the Buccaneers. Now, Tom Brady, he is projected by Fantasy Points, so head over to fantasypoints.com, use promo code 21Vipers10, get 10% off that subscription. Fantasy Points is projecting him as the QB9 this week. And he is back on top of the passing leaders pecking order amongst quarterbacks with 1,767 yards thus far. And he ranks 10th in yards per attempt at 7.9 yards per attempt, while only trailing Patrick Mahomes with 15 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. Now, games like last week, they definitely help his cause. You know, we're talking about a 400-yard game, 5 touchdowns. Well, basically, I guess they kind of inflate his numbers a little bit. But reality is, I think that's the first time he's got that 400-yard game with the 5 touchdowns combined. Don't fact check me. I might be just throwing that out there. I thought I heard that on the radio somewhere. But, you know, the old dog there, he's still getting it done. When it comes to passes over 20 yards or more, Brady ranks first in the National Football League with 27 such passes. Now, he's done a fine job spreading that ball around within the 3 wide receivers that he's had in his lineup there. He's got 3 of them with 300 or more receiving yards. And last time, now here's a kicker for everyone here. If you recall last year, the last time that Tom Brady was on Thursday Night Football, it was a game against the Chicago Bears in which the Buccaneers lost 20-19. That wasn't the only thing that was lost because apparently Tom Brady in that game lost sight of which down he was on. The infamous, you know what I'm saying there? So hopefully we don't have a repeat of that going into this matchup, but, you know, it's kind of fun to reminisce about where it all kind of – basically, that's kind of the turning point for the Bucs season last year was that game against the Bears on Thursday Night Football. That loss that kind of really propelled them to get back on the winning track eventually. Now, at the running back position, you got Leonard Fournette, who's projected to be the RB14 according to Fantasy Points. And you got Ronald Jones, who's really – I'm not even going to bother predicting him, predicting him, whatever you want to call it. It's really not worth my time. Now, it seems like playoff Lenny, he's starting to make some noise in Tampa. Last week against the Dolphins, Fournette had 67 yards on the ground, 43 additional yards in the passing game. Doing some simple arithmetic, and Fournette averaged about 6.8 yards per touch. And the Bucs have been looking to get Fournette more touches. Now, in the last 2 games, Fournette has seen 27 more touches than Ronald Jones. That's about a 39-12 ratio there, and been on the field more by a considerable margin, outsnapping him 109 snaps to 23. So you can definitely see the Buccaneers are moving or transitioning towards more Lenny. And we all love more Lenny. Well, except those Ronald Jones truthers out there. Now, on the season, Fournette has posted 56 carries, 251 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. He's also added 167 yards in the passing game on 19 receptions. Whereas Jones' stat line is a little underwhelming. 26 carries, 98 yards, 1 touchdown, and he's only got 2 catches for 24 yards. Everyone's favorite mustache, well, I guess he doesn't have it now, but he had it in Cincinnati. Gio Bernard adds a little bit of fun on third down when we're talking about this Bucs run game. It could be a sneaky flex play for managers that have been hit by the injury bug at the running back position. Now, Bernard has 2 receiving touchdowns in the 4 games, and he has seen 17 targets. Now, to the wide receivers, and that's really where things get fun for the Bucs. Now, Mike Evans projected again by fantasy points as the wide receiver 22. He is still on pace for yet another 1,000-yard season. Hopefully to improve upon that 7 straight. He's looking to make it 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And right now he's averaging 78.6 yards per game. And if my math skill is correct, and that all translates to about 1,336 yards. So he's well onto that pace, especially after, we look at what happened in week 1 there with Trevon Diggs and the Dallas Cowboys, where he was held to 24 yards. Now, since that week 1 mishap, Evans has had at least 8 targets, 5 receptions, and 75 or more yards in each of those games. Last week against Miami, Evans had 2 touchdowns on 6 receptions, racked up 113 yards, and those 393 yards on the season, that sits 12th in the National Football League. Look for Evans, though, to see plenty of Darius Big Play Slay this week. And you know what? Darius Slay, he did his job. He held DJ Moore last week to a minimal output. And look, I'm really looking for Slay to shadow Evans all over the field. And PFF, they graded him as one of the top coverage guys, maybe the top coverage guy in all of football last week. So that's something to keep in mind when we look at the matchups inside the matchups, especially when we're talking Bucs passing game versus the Eagles pass defense. Now, if Darius Slay is going to shadow Mike Evans, that means Chris Godwin should be able to have a pretty good game. And Fantasy Points has him projected as the wide receiver 8. Now, while he's right behind Mike Evans as far as receiving yards go, he's got 366. He sits 21st in the league in that category. He's also added 2 receiving touchdowns. Now, Brady has been spreading that ball evenly amongst his top 2 targets, with Evans seeing 45 targets, Godwin seeing 41 targets. Both have hauled in 29 passes through 5 contests. When looking at that even distribution of the passing game and what Mike Evans has done in the last 4 games, you need to know that Godwin, too, has been very consistent with 55 or more receiving yards in all 5 contests this year. Now, like I said, Slay on Evans, expect a big game from Godwin. And, you like I said, Fantasy Points has him projected as their wide receiver 8. I've got him at my wide receiver 12, just on the outside. Expect a big game for Chris Godwin. Now, the other receiving option for the Buccaneers is Antonio Brown, who Fantasy Points has projected as the wide receiver 15. He's played in 1 less game than both Evans and Godwin. And while Evans is getting around 9 targets a game and Godwin's getting 8, Antonio Brown is still averaging 7.2 targets per game. He's got 29 receptions. He's got 325 yards. He's also averaging 16.3 yards per reception to go with 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games, or in those 4 games that he's played. Now, with Gronk out last week, Brown looked to benefit the most with 7 receptions on 8 targets, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. And like I said, Gronk is going to miss this game as well, so expect Antonio Brown to be a factor going forward. And I'm guessing, like I said, if this game was on Sunday and not Thursday, Gronk would have a chance to be out there, in my opinion. Now, with Gronk out, then it's Cameron Braid, who's basically, tight end 23 on most projections. O.J. Howard, even less than that. One of them has an opportunity to do something. Unfortunately, so far with the opportunities that they've had this season, neither one of them has done anything. Of the 2, Braid has 8 catches to Howard's 4. He's got 84 receiving yards to Howard's 51 receiving yards, with neither of them able to find the end zone yet. Now, honestly, it's probably best just to avoid all Buccaneers tight ends in this matchup. Now, flipping the script to the other side, we talked about those injuries. Looks like Landon Dickerson, he could be back. Jordan Mailata, he might be back. Lane Johnson, we don't know what's going on there. But this Eagles line, who's been decimated not only this year, but last year as well, they may be starting to get healthy. They may finally be getting back on track, which is huge news for the Eagles. Now, Jalen Hurts, he is projected to be the QB4 according to fantasy points. I've got him as my QB4 as well. Now, since becoming the Eagles starter, he has been pure fantasy gold. Of his 7 of his first 8 career starts, he has been in that QB1 category, including every game thus far this season. The worst he's finished so far this year is as QB11. That still gets him into the QB1 category here. Now, we talk about the Konami code amongst quarterbacks with Lamar Jackson and everything he's done in his starts. Right behind Jackson is Jalen Hurts when it comes to running the ball. He is averaging 61.8 rushing yards over those 8 games. He has 256 rushing yards heading into week 6. And Hurts is not just one-dimensional. We talk about what Lamar Jackson's had to do to get to where he is and how he's not a thrower of the ball and how this and that. Well, Jalen Hurts faces very similar criticism anytime he steps on the field. And to his credit, he's been taking advantage of these negative game scripts and that have allowed him to pile on these passing yards. Hurts is 12th in passing yards with 1,367 yards. He's completed nearly 65% of those passes. And he has a 7 touchdowns, 3 interception ratio. And did you know that Jalen Hurts is the only QB to post 21 or more fantasy points in all 5 games this year? It's true. I looked it up. I did some fact checking before the show started. So kudos to me. Now, when we go for something exciting, we have to now take something. It's like Thanos getting the whole complete balance there. Now we have to talk about the Eagles running backs. Miles Sanders is going to be a very low-end RB2, RB3 type running back this week. He is currently coming in as projected as the RB24. Kenneth Gainwell comes in as RB30. Now, before last week, I talked about this dynamic of Miles Sanders and what this means and what Kenneth Gainwell and what that means for the Eagles. Well, Miles Sanders is 9th in snap count, which is fantastic. He's got 218 snaps versus Gainwell's 107 snaps, which is 52nd in the league. So you got a running back with the 9th most snaps. You got a running back with this 52nd most snaps. There should be some serious gap between the two as far as fantasy relevancy goes. Not so fast. Gainwell is 11th in RB targets with 21. Sanders is 14th with 19, but it gets worse for Sanders. Now, despite 218 snaps, he only has 48 carries. That is 36th amongst running backs in the league, and he's only got 214 yards for out of that. Now, that number looks good when you look to the 2. That's 4.5 yards per carry. He's been efficient to speak, but the volume just hasn't been there. The Eagles have not been using Sanders to his potential, and I can't explain why right now. Now, on the flip side, Gainwell, he kind of accounted for 21 of those carries. He's been more efficient. He's got 4.8 yards per carry, and he's the back of the 2 that's been making the most of his opportunities. I think he's been more efficient than Sanders so far. In a game that figures to be a shootout, and the Eagles are expecting to throw a lot, especially when you look at Vegas has them as those 7-point underdogs going in at home. It doesn't spell a whole lot of good game script for either one of these running backs. And then you factor in the equation, the Bucs run defense has been pretty good this year, probably because most of the opponents have had to abandon the run game to play catch up, to go point for point, blow for blow with the Bucs, to keep up with them throughout the game. The Buccaneers are basically seeing 13.2 carries per game against their defense, and they're limiting those carries to a league low 39.6 rushing yards per game. Avoid the Eagles running backs on Thursday Night Football. You don't want any part of that right now. I'm sorry, Miles Sanders. You're a big-time fade for me. Kenneth Gainwell, I can't trust you yet. Now, who I can trust is DeVonta Smith here. He is projected to be the wide receiver 16, and he has been the top dog when it comes to targets for Jalen Hurts. In fact, he has seen the 18th most targets thus far this season with 39 through 5 games. Now, the fewest he has seen was 6 targets back in week 3 against the Dallas Cowboys, and that you kind of maybe attribute there a little bit to Trevon Diggs. I'm looking to see if Smith can get to that 70-yard threshold there when it comes to receiving for the 4th time in 6 games. For me, that's kind of you know what? I can start trusting you a little bit more. There's a little bit of a consistency factor because he does have 2 games factored in there with 30 or fewer receiving yards. Now, maybe we could see him getting a little bit more used in the red zone because he's had 2 receptions on 2 targets inside the red zone this year, one of those being for a touchdown. 8.8 points have come in the red zone for DeVonta Smith, which accounts for 14% of his total 62.4 points, which gives him right around that wide receiver 32 range. So I'm expecting DeVonta Smith to step up this week. Now, another wide receiver who I'm always expecting to step up is Jaylen Rager, projected at wide receiver 55. Is this a breakout game? I have to keep believing. Tampa Bay ranks dead last in passing defense, giving up an average of 314 yards per game. They've been a little bit better in the last 3 games, giving up only 296 per contest, which is about 26th in the league in those 3 games. Rager sits fifth on the Eagles in receiving yards at 140. That's behind Smith. That's behind Quez Watkins. That's behind Dallas Goddard. That's behind Ertz even. At least he's ahead of Miles Sanders, because if he wasn't, that would be really bad. Now, he is seeing some targets. Hurts has targeted him 25 times in 5 games. That's 5 targets per game. And once he has the ball in his hands, he is as dangerous of a receiver as anyone in the league. He has 90 yards after the catch of his 140. So that's something that the Eagles need to really focus on, getting the ball in Rager's hands and watching him do the work. Now, Quez Watkins is projected to be wide receiver 47. He's second on the team in yards with 267 yards, but 91 of those came on one play back in week 2 against the 49ers. 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, he saw a season-high 7 targets, but he managed to only turn that into 33 yards and 3 receptions. Outside of DeVonta Smith, you really can't trust anyone else to catch the ball and produce with any kind of consistency in Philly. Good news for these Eagles pass catchers. The Bucs have given up 17.2 receptions per game to wideouts this year and have given up 46.7 fantasy points per game over that same period to the wide receiver position. That point total, that 46.7, that's the second most in the league. So maybe Jaylen Rager does break out this week, or else DeVonta Smith just has a huge game. Now, at the tight end position, Zach Ertz, I've got him at tight end 6. Fantasy Points has him at tight end 6. Dallas Goddard is going to miss some time because of COVID. And I've mentioned this once. I've mentioned this twice. If this game was on Sunday instead of Thursday, he would have an opportunity to play. That said, Goddard only had 2 catches on 3 targets and 28 yards last week against Carolina. Zach Ertz and that platinum blonde flow got double the targets with 6. However, remember, you don't trust Eagles pass catchers not named DeVonta Smith. If you're looking for an acronym, DTEPCNNDS. Okay, that's probably a little bit too long. But yeah, Ertz had 1 catch, 7 targets, 7 yards. The previous week against the Chiefs, he hauled in 6 passes for 60 yards, but only has 1 touchdown on the season. And, you have to go all the way back to week 1 there against the Cowboys to see that touchdown. Now, you almost have to start Ertz in this contest, but you don't have to like it. Ertz is currently the tight end 20. He's got 7.2 fantasy points per game. But you know what? No Levante David. It means more Ertz. How do I see this game all kind of playing out? Is there an upset brewing in the city of brotherly love? I've been known to say some pretty out there type things here, but the Bucs have one of the oldest rosters in the NFL, and Brady is less than 100% himself, dealing with that thumb injury. The Eagles played well against the Panthers, and Hurts under center will put even more pressure on that Bucs defense that's playing shorthanded for much of the season. And now they are going to lose Levante David patrolling that middle of that defense. For the Eagles, look for them to try and get to Brady as much as they did with Sam Darnold last week, registering 3 sacks, getting multiple pressures on there that all led to 3 more interceptions of Sam Darnold. Now, it may surprise you, but the Eagles are the best team in the league when it comes to giving up receptions to opposing wide receivers, yielding only 9.6 receptions per game. And that is much inflated due to that huge week that Tyreek Hill had just a couple weeks ago. You know what? Let's get bold. Let's have some fun. Let's hit the over. I'm going to say there's going to be 59 points scored in this game. And I'm going to say the Eagles, yes, the Eagles win this game at home, 31-28. Now, I know Bucs fans, don't get at me, but I don't like this game for you guys to travel to Philly with that older roster. Brady's thumb less than 100%. It's hard to say because he did actually throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns with that same thumb. So I may just be blowing smoke wherever you want to go. But for me, I like the Eagles in this one for some reason. I think Jalen Hurts continues that dominance. I think he's going to have a top 4 QB week this week. I hope he does, because I'm starting in every league I possibly can over Matt Stafford. And I think Matt Stafford's going to have a good week too. So with that all said, I want you guys to make sure you check out fantasypoints.com. Go over there, hit promo code 21Vipers10, get 10% off that subscription. You want facts, you want numbers, you want stats. It's a one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs there over at fantasypoints.com. And make sure to check out the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, coming at you every Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern. One of the best shows out there with myself, Tara Roberts, Major Caldwell, and Calvin Shoemake. We have fun previewing each and every matchup, waiver wire, starts and sits, bold predictions. We got it all for you to come check out. Now, when you're seeing down here, somewhere on the YouTube page here, there's a like button. Make sure you hit that, please. Make sure you subscribe to the show because that'd be great too. We appreciate your support. Make sure you leave some comments because every comment you put in there, I'm going to make sure I read and I'll respond to each and every comment that goes on there, especially for this video. And again, appreciate you guys for taking the time, watching this video, and get ready because we're going to be hitting you with a little bit of Sunday Night Football again, a little bit of football in a movie, what we do on Sundays, and of course the Monday Night Football preview show as well. So till then, keep it real.